Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to our October action meeting. Our first order of business is the approval of minutes. We have the regular action meeting minutes of September 29th, the board work session special action meeting dated September 8th, and the executive sessions dated September 8th and 29th of 2015. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes, please? Mrs. Judge, do I have a second? Mrs. Khan. Mr. Devereaux?
Mrs. Khan,
Yes to all.
Dr. Dickinson,
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Horiadis,
Yes.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mr. Robbins,
Yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel,
Yes.
Mrs. Matlack.
Yes. Do we have any correspondence tonight? Seeing none, we will move on to our presentations tonight. We have the recognition of employees for years of service. Mrs. Wilson?
So tonight we are recognizing our employees who have served the district for either 20, 25, 30, 35, or 40 years of service. We also have two special guests here who have served for longer than 40 years, so I will get to that as well. Some of you did receive invitation letters where it may perhaps have said that you've served for 19 years, but you will be reaching your 20th year during this school year, so same for any other increment. It'll be 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So I'll start with Terry Wachowski for 20 years. James Schaefer, 20 years. Anna Close. Patricia Pooley, 20 years. John Young, 20 years. Robert Bonnet. Valerie Sweeten-Dittmer, 20 years. Kathy Simpkins, 20 years. Doris Satman, 20 years. Dr. Laura Chapman, 20 years. Rita Palma, 20 years. Christine Graham. Julio Martinez, 20 years. Louise Head, 20 years. Carol Lagonda, 20 years. Maria Reinholtz, also 20 years. Sorry, 25 years. Mary Matzer, 25 years. Roberta Croce, 25 years. Debbie Mesta, I guess she's not here. Scott Sweeten, 25 years. Kathleen Chase, 25 years. Michelle Keynes. Ella Adolfo Mensa, 25 years. Carlene Emily, 25 years. Judy Dixon, 25 years. David Gross, 25 years. Diane Volk, 25 years. Linda Rotella, 25 years. Diane O'Brien, 25 years. Karen Cohen, 25 years. Florian Scarduzio, 25 years. Dolly Nicholson, 25 years. Richard Bogan, 25 years. Sorry, 30 years. 30 years. Lawrence Dougherty, 30 years. Mary Sandoni, 35 years. Now we're up to 40 years. Mary Ott. Helena Dobronilski, sorry, 40 years. John Bavoom, 40 years. Martin Sharofsky, 40 years.
That's a keeper.
And our last two honorees actually are employees of Cherry Hill Township, but they have served this district as crossing guards. One for Mann Elementary, one for Russell Knight Elementary. They have served us for 50 years. Their names are Claire Banner and Helen Litz. And if everyone who got a certificate tonight would please join me out in the lobby, I'll take a quick picture before we go. You're welcome to come back for the meeting too if you like. You don't have to though, so I'll meet you out there. Thank you to all of our staff for their dedicated years of service to the district. Our next presentation is the Violence and Vandalism Report, and we have our district security and Chief Mohan from the township here as well to present that to us.
Good evening, everyone. President Matlack, Vice President Roth, members of the board, student representatives, thank you very much for your time tonight. Our annual presentation of the Violence, Vandalism, and Weapons Substance Abuse Report sounds very foreboding when you see the title of it, but it's the name that the state has given us. It's an electronic reporting system that collects data, and we then, at the end of the school year, compile it, put it together, and then present it to the board and to the public to show how our schools are doing. And before I get started, I've been here a couple months. My predecessor, Mike Nuzzo, did it for 19 years, and these numbers are a testament to Mike. It's a testament to everybody that works for the district, everybody that administrates for the district, and to the Board of Education, and the students. These numbers are tremendous. You'll see some fluctuation in them, but for the size of this district, it is just a tremendous showing for the district and for everyone involved. It's pretty simple. It gets broken down into 5 different categories: violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and of course, over the past 4 or 5 years, harassment, intimidation, and bullying have really come to the forefront, and the numbers will also reflect that. Not only for the current school year or the school year that's passed, but it's always good to take a snapshot of the data for 5 years. And that's what we also have in this report. It will show how the numbers have fluctuated in 5 years, but you'll find it, with the exception of the HIB, it's amazing how the numbers are fairly static, which again goes to the education and all the things that I'll be pointing out as we go along in the report. I think it's an accurate assessment. I did a lot of research on it. Mike and I had a lot of discussions on it before he left, and it seems like it reflects accurately the issues, and most importantly in our case, the non-issues that we have in our schools. Here's the overview. These are the actual numbers from each category, each of the 5 major categories. Now, these 5 categories have subcategories to them. We'll get to them shortly. As you can see, in 2011, or 2010-11 school year, no HIB was reported. It wasn't a category yet. It wasn't reported under any category. It was whatever it was, it's what category it fell into. In 2011 and 2012, the HIB became a specific incident, but it was in the violence category. That's why that number is so high there with the asterisk next to it. It was reported in the violence category, so 144 of those 183 incidents in the violence category were HIB. And then you notice a real sharp drop-off in the number of violence because the HIB has been pulled out, and now it's down in the bottom there where you see 23 under the 2012-13 school year. So it has its own category starting in 2012-13. And it goes on. Now you'll see with those numbers, the number that jumps out, of course, is the 73 for HIB. So why is that number high? As we've moved on, we've gotten more education. I'm sorry for my back, but you got to face the data here. We've gotten more education. We've gotten more attuned to what's going on, and they're being reported more often. And I think it's not only from the administrators, teachers, and staff. I think it's the children who are now okay with coming forward and saying, yes, I'm being bullied. I'm not having that learning environment that I should get. So that is why that number seems to be going up each year. If anybody has any questions as we're going along, just jump right on in. Violence category, we'll focus on that for a moment. 40 incidents last year, 40 incidents this year. We'll take a look at the subcategories there. And again, the HIB is up there because it was in that category for those 2 school years. You'll see if you look at the 13-14 to 14-15 numbers, which is where the 40 and 40 come, really the incidents within those 2 categories, within that violence category, those two particular years with the offenses you see there, they're pretty static. A little bit of a bigger bump in the sexual assaults or sex offenses, and all of those sex offenses involved inappropriate touching. For how it's categorized by the state of New Jersey in the sexual assault statutes. Vandalism category, 14 incidents reported this year in comparison to 24 last year. So that's down 10 for property damage to 8 last year, and we can go down and see those numbers on the next page. Again, that's the subcategories underneath the vandalism category. I think the one that jumps out at us here is the bomb threat, 0 last school year, 14-15, as opposed to 7 the year before. That's the majority of our difference there in the total. But again, nothing that really jumps out at you as being a concern there. Weapons category, of course, this is the one that we focus on, that concerns us, because any sort of a weapon in a school is just dangerous. You see a jump. There is a jump from 12 or from 3 incidents to 12 incidents. But again, some of these reporting parameters have gotten more stringent. So somebody that brings in a Swiss Army knife, let's say, may not be charged with a weapons offense if it goes through to family court, but we still have to report it as in this report. So I think, again, education is and the teachers being more observant, and being more not only observant but also aware of their surroundings. And I think that's why we're getting the more of this. Again, it's 11, and it's all knives of some sort. Folding knives, one box cutter. So the number here, that there's a couple of things here that's important. First off, there's no guns, none, which is fantastic. Second off, there's weapons which are in possession, but in the 5 years, counting school year 14-15 back, in the previous 5 years, there has only been one assault involving a weapon, and as you see up there, that weapon was a pen. So yes, there was 11 folding knives, 1 utility knife in the schools last year, at least found, but they weren't used in any way, shape, or form. Now, even if they're brandished for intimidation purposes, that would not be, we would have to put it under that assault, the assault category, the assault with a weapon. Even if nothing's done, if it's brandished, if it's threatened, it goes in that category. So we have had 1 over the past 5 years. Substance abuse involves alcohol and drugs, and the drugs run the gamut. It particularly focuses on marijuana, so everything else, it's really marijuana and every other controlled dangerous substances. As you all know, heroin is running rampant in Camden County. Cocaine runs rampant in Camden County. So those numbers are not broken out. That's all the others. The one main category here is marijuana. Again, the numbers are extremely low. One incident involved the use of marijuana. Let's go to the numbers. It's a little easy to see. Use, possession, distribution, and paraphernalia are the 4 categories to this substance abuse, the 4 subcategories to the substance abuse category. Again, you'll see very, very static on the numbers. Use, alcohol 1, the marijuana, of course, is 16, other none. So we've had no other uses reported in the school involving anything other than marijuana. Not that that's acceptable, but it's not, we have nothing else there. The possessions are exceptionally low, even as you see moving from the from left to right. You see the total numbers are really staying steady, and distribution is just about non-existent. A couple of incidents there in 12 and 13, and 1 incident last year, and paraphernalia is basically non-existent also. HIB, the jump, 73, or from 39 to 73 over the past 2 school years. As I said before, there's reasons for that. Ongoing training, we have training at all different levels for HIB. We'll be given some training tomorrow to substitute teachers, because they're responsible too when they're in the classrooms. The Department of Education has stringent guidelines for this, and again, as I said before, the willingness for the students to come forward, and also for the teachers to see it and come forward. We have developed the district-wide protocols for clarity and making sure that the HIB is being reported in a standard manner, being also reported in a standard manner, and handled in a standard manner, which is all good things. And we have the week of respect to make the children aware of what children keep saying, students aware of the HIB also. Actions taken. This is what has happened to the cases that came to us. Now, we, as Chief Monahan stands over here, the police department, in my 2 months, the police department has been, which is where I came from, an unbelievable resource for us. I can't even imagine the past 20 years how it was with Mike. I know some of it from being involved in it, but it's the dependency that we have with the police department and the respect that I have for the police department and what they do for us as a district is just tremendous. So 21 incidents that were documented on a police report. These incidents were adjusted by school discipline. So it was reported to the police, but it wasn't referred to family court. Then we have 21 incidents that were reported to the police and referred to family court, and those incidents, of course, were adjudicated through the court system. 10 in-school suspensions through the support program for minor school infractions. Now, mind you, these suspensions are only the ones that are being reported through the violence and vandalism reports. There may be other suspensions that don't come through the report process that are just school-level discipline for some other reason. Could be lateness, could be things like that, but that's not reported to the state. So that way, these numbers are just related to the reports that are collected by the state and the data that's collected. And 59 students out of school suspension that are related to these incidents. We have many safe school practices that we continue. Important ones as we go on, just to pick out a couple that are important. The crisis management plan, constantly updated, a living document that needs to be reviewed. It's very thick. There's a lot of information in it, but we present it to the teachers to the principals at the administrative retreat in the early summer or late summer, and also throughout the school year whenever anybody needs it. I've been trying to make an effort to get to different faculty meetings to go over any problems that the faculty may have in a specific school, and it's been working out very well. Staff photos, door entry system. All schools are now secure by the door entry. The passive alcohol sensor program, I spoke with Jen DeStefano this morning. It's administered at the different dances, the proms. There's not been one positive that has come out of the use of the passive alcohol sensor. That's fantastic. It's obviously it's a deterrent. Others, we have a great referral system here if our students need it. Megan's Law notifications are with all schools. If we get that, the superintendent gets that notification, then it goes out to that particular school that's involved, and everybody has to sign off that they have actually seen the particular person that's involved in that Megan's Law notification. We have zero tolerance for all weapons and substance abuse from grade level kindergarten through 12. There's zero tolerance, which again is good. That ends up, the word gets out, that ends up being a deterrent also. Annual school checklist. Mike developed this when he was here. I intend to continue it because it's a great idea. It reminds the principals, it's sent to the principals as they get back to school to long, wonderful summer vacations, and you tend to forget things. And it kind of gets you back into the groove as to what you need to look at in your building to make sure you're okay. And the alarm codes are all assigned, and they are kept track of, so we know who has alarms, and we have just recently found out who has keys, so we're working on the keys too. The safety practices, locked doors all the time. The classrooms can be secured in seconds. All the doors remain locked all the time. We just pull the magnets or pull the strips that are blocking the latch from catching, and we have a secured room. The drills we've been doing, every month there has to be one fire drill and one security drill done, and those drills we are mandating as a district through the superintendent that those drills have to be done at unconventional times. It's great that we can drill all the time when it's easy, but you know these things are going to happen in lunchtime, arrival, dismissal, so we're drilling on that also, and we're getting out to observe them to make any sort of adjustments that we need to make. Our stakeholders are many. Board of Ed, of course, your guidance, parents and students, the teachers and staff, the tremendous teachers that we have here, school administrators, the PTA reps, our campus police officers who have been a great help to me. Again, I can't say enough about the Cherry Hill Police Department and the Cherry Hill Fire Department, who came to visit me the other day also. And the community of each community and each school, I think, buys into the school in the areas. And the kids are walking. I think the people enjoy seeing the kids walking to and from school. And it's just a good community builder when they see our kids out there. So again, these numbers are just tremendous for a district this size. At least I think so. I think you all agree. You have any questions? If you have any specifics whatsoever that you need, you want a certain incident, I'll be glad to look it up. The binders are about that thick, but we'll find it. So if you need anything, please don't hesitate to contact. Yes, ma'am.
Just one comment. I want to just thank you for everything you do, and the Cherry Hill Police as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
In this, crazy world that we live in, and, we expect our children to be safe in schools, and every time you hear about an incident, you hold your breath. And,
Absolutely.
I don't mean in our schools, I mean on the news or whatever. So, thank you. Thank you for everything you do.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Mr. Saporito, I have to offer my apologies for not introducing you when you began your report. He started this summer and has jumped in so seamlessly that it slipped my mind that you are new to most of the other board members and to our community. So my apologies. This presentation, and we are in good hands of Mr. Tony Saporito, who is our new Director of Security.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
thank you very much, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for your thorough report, too.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up, we have our board representative reports. And the boys are both pointing to Drew, so I'm assuming that Drew would like to go first tonight.
It
So-
will be me tonight. Tim has lots to talk about, so I'm just going to make a brief one before he goes
Perfect.
into a lengthy report as usual. So thank you, Mrs. Matlack. Some upcoming events that we have on Thursday, the 22nd, is our annual 3v3 tournament, basketball. So that's exciting, but the date may be changed, so just keep an eye out for that. It's $2 to go watch if you're interested in that. Sunday is our annual Powder Puff game, which is at 1 p.m. Also, go out to that. Should be a great game. I can't guarantee too much quality in the football because I am positive that our senior girls are going to outplay the junior girls this year. I received news that one of our newest and most popular clubs, Athletes Against Bowling, actually moved and expanded over to West. So we're very excited about that. Tim informed me about that, so a little steal on that part. But as a member of that, it's pretty exciting. So good for them. I also recently attended a couple leadership conferences for student councils. One was at TCNJ, and the other was at the Convention Center today in Philly. A couple great motivational speakers just about how us as leaders can really help improve our schools, so that was nice. I also received great feedback from my alternate Jane from Thursday night. I couldn't be there because I had a college visit to the University of Michigan, and although I really wanted to go to the Thursday night Welcome to Cherry Hill night, I even wanted to go more once I experienced the end of the Michigan game. For any of you Michigan fans, you know what happened at the end of that game, so I wish I could go back in time, and I regretted my decision of going to visit the university, but it was great, so I loved that. I did touch a lot on how the students have been affected by the contracts last time, so I won't touch on that. I won't go too into depth with that this time. Just one thing I noticed is the overall atmosphere is that students are just really exhausted because it's been a very long time that this has gone on. So it's just the exhaustion that I've noticed throughout the student body, and people just want it to end. They don't really know the specifics of what's happening, but it's just the general consensus of they want it to be over. So they're definitely having a little bit of a rough time with a lot of the changes that are going on this year. And it's definitely apparent, but I think everyone still has confidence that it'll go back to normal in the near future. But anyway, I also would like to expand on some of the options for the proposals that I know Tim has shared with me. But I'm going to let him go into that more into depth tonight. So I'm going to hand that over to Tim, and I know he's going to do a great job with the specifics, and I am in full support of his proposals. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Tim, you're up.
It's time for the chatty representative to get up here. All right. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Mrs. Matlack, Mr. Roth, and Dr. Malash. As Drew has said, tonight is my longest speech so far, so please bear with me. I told my grandma that I do my best to entertain you all every week, to which she says, "Why are you entertaining? You should be informing." So I'm going to do a little bit of both. The fall months are now upon us, and the leaves on Chapel Hill are turning a bit yellow. The football season is in full swing, and Well, that's not going exactly how we would like it to go, but we don't have to get into that. I know Mrs. Judge, I saw her nod over here. I'm a Penn State fan, so please, I feel your pain in every capacity. The fall means it's a little colder out, and that 6:30 wake up is ever bit harder for all of us. My mom has had to pull me out of my bed more than once, but we're doing okay. Cherry Hill West has been a flurry of activity since the school year started. Our volleyball team remains one of the strongest in South Jersey, something that their coach said to me last week even surprised her a little bit. We don't have to get into that too much. We have formed an anime club, which made its debut at our activities fair 2 weeks ago, and the Athletes Against Bullying, as Drew stole from me in his speech, did make its way across town. So who said we couldn't get along? We all share things. And the Athletes Against Bullying, for the first time this year, was given a table at the activities fair where they were able to court new students to join them. However, about 3 minutes before they were scheduled to sit down at their table, 2 young boys flipped over their sign-up sheet, wrote "Welcome to the Cheese Club," and put 8 different types of cheeses and cut samples and left them out there for all the students to eat. They had 35 people come to sign up, something like that. I will assure all of you, with the diversity we have at West, we do not have a cheese club. And I don't think that we will have one, although we're always open to new ideas. So, our boys soccer team was selected as a 10 seed in the Coaches Cup tournament. They will be playing again this week. I believe Shawnee is our opponent later this week. I was going to wish my friends at Cherry Hill East luck in that tournament. However, they were not selected. Oh, gosh. After the 1-0 loss we took at Deku this week, I think I had that coming. So I saw Mrs. Seidel at the game. I did make a comment that she should be rooting for West, but that's okay. We'll get over that. Her children go to East. That's okay. So I actually have an article. I will pass that around. We were featured in the Carrier Post. Our goalie, David Rochford, was actually interviewed. I don't know how that happened. He's a friend of mine. I didn't know he had so many connections. But he was interviewed about our 2-3 start that turned into an 8-4 start and got us ranked all the way up to 8th in South Jersey. So certainly some improvement that we are proud of there. The peer leaders, which I am also a part of, continued our work this past week with meeting the freshman homerooms as part of Respect Week, and we were able to come up with possible themes and ideas that they had for how to promote it more, and we heard about that a little bit in the security presentation before. I feel like this is a lot of self-promotion, but the Empire Mock Trial team is leaving this Friday for New York City. So we were fortunate enough to finish in the top 6 in the state last year, and we were invited to apply to a tournament that's in New York that has teams coming from Hong Kong, the UK, and Ireland. So we are certainly looking forward to that. And that will be taking place from Friday to Monday. We are staying in the Marriott on the Brooklyn Bridge, which is nicer than I've ever stayed in before. So there is some excitement to a school trip. Look at how luxurious we are going on this school trip. And we would also like to thank the CHEF for donating. They donated $2,000 to us this year on top of our individual fundraising. So there was certainly a lot of appreciation from us. We will be enjoying our hotel accommodations thanks to them. Dr. Morton has formed an exploratory committee to create a new super school. Now, this was a Think It Up presentation. He and Ms. Roscoff both reluctantly admitted that on Friday night they were home watching TV, and this came on. It was this idea that you can reinvent the American high school, that our global economy has shifted so much over the last 40 years, and American high school has stayed frozen in time. So we formed a committee. It was 9 people, 3 teachers, 1 parent, and 3 students. Yet again, I was also honored to be selected on that committee. And we have begun meeting, discussing ideas for how to get the $10 million grant that is being proposed by the widow of, I believe, Steve Jobs. She is running this program, and 5 schools will be selected across the nation. That will be announced next summer. So even though I won't get to enjoy the $10 million at West, I said that they can name a computer lab after me, and that would be as much gratification as I would ever need. So finally, the presentation part of my ideas. I have been talking to students a lot, and they do get a word in, I promise. That does happen in our conversations. And I've asked them, what is the biggest concern, what is the biggest thing that they are looking for over the next few months, next few years in the case of the underclassmen. And unanimously, the lunchtime policies that are in place at both schools, thank you, have been a topic of conversation. So our current lunchtime gives us very little flexibility. There is a lot of people stuffed into a very hot, small space, I can assure you of that. So we would like to change that. And I have, in conjunction with the student government and class government, typed up a presentation. There is one for each of you here. And we would like to propose that students be allowed to leave campus, seniors be allowed to leave campus during the allotted lunchtime, thus making our buildings an open building for lunch. I heard an oh no groan from the right, and I'm already concerned. So it will certainly offer a whole new element to the student experience that we already have, and I did propose this to Dr. Malash at his town hall at our school last week, and had mentioned that he had faced the same questions while he was the principal of our school, to some laughter from him. So he was ready for it, and I appreciate him listening to our ideas. Now, I also would like to note on this, my business teacher, Ms. Melleby, would be insulted if I did not mention the impact this would have on the local economy. And from my many visits to Chicks, I will tell you they would be thrilled too. So I'm hoping that we can start a dialogue about this. I know the students at my school would really enjoy hearing about some proposals. We gained the support of Cherry Hill East, yet another bipartisan effort. I think we have to be applauded for that. We're really getting along this year. I enjoyed a lot. And an added incentive for me is that I have about 40 students who've already offered to buy me lunch if I get that. So I won't even have to save any money. I'm just going to get in my car and see where lunchtime takes me. So thank you very much for listening to my lengthy address tonight. I would be happy to answer any questions about our proposal, and look forward to talking about it again in the future. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Tim and Drew, for your support and for your cooperation of the two schools. We appreciate the work that you've done as students to organize, put your thoughts together, speak together, and to present them to us. So we really do appreciate that. We will look through your proposal. We will take your comments into consideration. We'll speak with Dr. Malash about his conversation with you at your town hall meetings, and we will get back to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Before I leave our board representatives, does anybody have any questions for them regarding their proposal before we go? Okay. Not at this time, but thank you. Not yet. So now I will have my president's notes that I have. We have school board elections coming up on Tuesday, November 3rd. The polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And this year we have 3 open seats on the Board of Education. And we have incumbents Barry Dickinson and Kathy Judge running for 2 of those seats. And we have community members Ken Tomlinson, I believe Ken is in the audience, and Frederick Donday, also running for one of those seats. And we have community member Jane Scarpolini, who is here, but she's running for the unexpired term, the 1-year unexpired term. So please come out and vote on November 3rd. I'd like to give you a brief update on the status of negotiations. You all know that we are awaiting the fact finders report, which we expect out in a few weeks. The board leadership and CHEA leadership met on October 6th to continue the negotiation discussion. At the conclusion of that meeting, I requested we set another date for meeting. Mr. Sharofsky requested we wait until after October 15th to schedule the next meeting. While the board waited to hear from CHEA, we provided dates to Dr. Marash to schedule a meeting for the week of October 19th. Mr. Sharofsky got in touch with me yesterday afternoon and proposed several meeting dates, the earliest of which was October 31st. The board preferred to meet sooner rather than later. Mr. Sharofsky and I have been corresponding during the past 24 hours in an attempt to establish a mutually agreed upon meeting time. We have agreed to meet on Thursday, October 29th. The board's top priority is and will continue to be the education of the students of Cherry Hill. We remain ready to negotiate with CHEA to come to a fair and reasonable settlement. And now we will have our first public discussion. At this time, your comments must be on anything on the action agenda. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes for your remarks. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the superintendent's comment. Dr. Marsh.
Thank you, Mrs. Matlack. I just want to start by congratulating all the folks that were honored this evening for their years of service to the district. I started in my head to count the number of years for the people that were honored, and honestly lost count in hundreds and hundreds of years. So I'm very grateful the fact that folks came out to be recognized, and we had teachers, we had secretaries, we had maintenance folks who were here. So just thank you to all of you. The ladies, the crossing guards, have been active and very busy with their community for 50 years. When you look at the length of service and what they provided for the type of service, it's absolutely unbelievable. We are very grateful for what the ladies have done. They are icons, in the Horace Mann as well as the Russell Knight community. And they've gotten quite a bit of press in the last few weeks, which is nice for them and for the community, because you don't see that kind of dedication and service to one type of job or to one field too much anymore. I would like to say, just as an aside, when Dr. Chapman came by, I did ask him if he was going to make this education thing a career, after hitting 20 years in the district. And he said he thinks he's going to, which is good. So that's there. So congratulations to all the folks who were there, who were recognized. Been a lot of great activity. I've really enjoyed the past month since I last had the opportunity to address everyone. A couple of things I'd like to highlight. We had a very exciting opportunity at Sharp Elementary School today in Mrs. Sleeth's classroom. We were selected as a district to have a live author visit that was done electronically through Google Hangouts. It was actually absolutely incredibly well done. Mrs. Katsikas, Dr. Mahan, Mrs. Sleeth, Mr. Mishiosha really did great work in putting it together. There's lots of photos, there's lots of information will be out there, and truly an expansion of learning opportunities for where we are. So thank you to all the folks who were involved in doing that. I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to attend the Lab Theater program at High School East on the Friday evening in the rain. An incredible show. When you look at what Mr. Weaver has done with the kids who are in the Lab Theater program just over the first 5.5, almost 6 weeks of school, it's amazing. And it was a combination of kids who directed the different vignettes and the different scenes. Some of them were directed by the adults, but a wonderful performance. It's one of the great things that I have the opportunity to do is to travel throughout the schools and see the different talents that the kids have. Along those same lines, last week I saw the fall preview concert at High School West. And again, in the course of about 90 minutes, you're able to see all the different vocal groups, the instrumental groups, the select groups, and it's incredible. The level of talent of the children who are here in the district is amazing. I'm looking forward to East's fall preview concert is next Thursday night, so I look forward to that as well. I've been holding town hall meetings in the secondary schools. So thus far I've met, as Tim talked about, with a group at High School West. I've met with students at Rosa, at Carusi, and today I met with a group of students at the Alternative High School. It's an opportunity for me to be out in the buildings and truly to get an honest perspective about the students' experience. What's working well, what they would like to see changed, what's a positive, some of the concerns that they may have. I've even heard of some proposals for changes in terms of what we do within our program. So I'm grateful to that, or for that. I will be at Beck and at High School East later this week as well. Right, Drew? We're Thursday? I think we're together. So that's been a very positive thing for me. It was exciting to see during the course of Spanish Heritage Month, the group from High School West, the Latinos at West Club, were on tour again this fall. They put on a tremendous program. Senora Alejandra Rivas-Mintz does an incredible job with the students. They do a wonderful thing and really produce a program that's beneficial to all, not only to them for what they put together, but for all the children who can have the opportunity to see it throughout the week. We're in the midst of Red Ribbon Week. There are lots of activities throughout our schools. Again, looking at the dedication of the PTA and the involvement of the teachers and the students who come together to be involved in a variety of activities. It also is a way that we work in enhancing the relationship that we have with the township. Linda Dombrowski, who's out of the township offices, works with our schools. And again, wonderful experiences. I'm grateful to Mr. Saporito and the presentation that he did this evening. As he talked about, he picked up from Mr. Nuzzo, was able to digest the information, organize it, and present it from stuff that he wasn't involved in because he was still on the PD when all these records were being taken during the course of last year. The highlight that we have with the relationship that exists between the school district and Chief Monahan and the police department, the opportunity to meet with Chief Colby and Assistant Chief Callan from the fire department last week really is a benefit to all of us. And just one last thing, last Thursday I was also the opportunity to attend the Welcome to Cherry Hill event that the township put on at the library. And many people were there, and it's just great to see new families and great to see new people to Cherry Hill who are excited to be here. A wonderful evening, that's a part of what we do. So thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move into our action agenda. Tonight, since we are only having one October meeting, it's a combination work session action meeting. So I'd ask the committee chairs to, present their report of the committee meeting and then move their agenda for the evening. So we will start with Mrs. Seidel and the CNI agenda, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Matlack. So we're doing the committee first, right?
Yes,
Okay.
give your committee report first and then move the agenda.
Okay. We had our Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting on Monday, October 5th at 7 p.m., and we had a busy agenda as usual. I will give you the highlights. We talked about the CUSAC Statement of Assurances. Dr. Mahan presented the Statement of Assurances specifically on instruction and program. We had an update on the middle level committee meeting. We had Dr. Cafagna, Dr. Perry, Mr. Guy, as well as 6 teacher and parent representatives from across the 3 schools who gave us a update with a PowerPoint presentation entitled Middle Level Committee Update. They also presented this PowerPoint at 4 community forums, which occurred, have already occurred on October 6th, 7th, 8th, and 13th. There is also a survey, so parents and community members can give their feedback to the committee. And a question was asked in regard to what schools have you decided to visit to compare our district to, Haddonfield, Princeton, West Windsor, Washington Township, et cetera, and that's on the agenda for the next middle level meeting. We also discussed Read Across the Globe, which was Mrs. Kasikas, curriculum supervisor for ELA, shared that Cherry Hill Public Schools will be participating in the Read Across the Globe event, which we discussed a short time ago. And we also talked about the Zaner and Blazer author visit at Sharp. And just some additional items that were covered, non-public security aid. Dr. Mahan shared the state guidelines for administrating the non-public security and aid and the timelines for completion. Dr. Mahan shared an update from New Jersey Spotlight highlighting Governor Christie's call to rethink the Common Core. And that was the summary of our CNI meeting. I'll move on to our action agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Robbins.
Have you heard any feedback on the turnout at the middle level community forums?
I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Malash or Dr. Mahan.
So we had 4 events. There was one at each one of the middle schools, and then there was one during the day here at Malberg. In between the 4 events, there were probably about 50 people total that attended. Obviously, there was some great discussion that took place. We expect there will be a lot more submission online because we have the stuff is linked through the website. But some great questions, some great ideas, very informative. And it was nice. Some of the elementary PTAs participated in sending the information out to their folks because it truly is kids and families who are in the elementary schools who really will be affected by the enhancement and the evolution of the middle school program.
Any other questions? Okay. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. Number 1, attendance at conferences and workshops for the 2015-2016 school year. Number 2, approval of non-public textbook for the 2015-2016 school year. Number 3, approval of non-public technology for the 2015-2016 school year. Number 4, approval of out-of-district student placements for 2015-2016 school year. Number 5, approval of services contract with New Jersey Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired 2015-2016. Number 6, approval of agreements for 2015-2016 school year under $17,500. Number 7, resolution approving rider to professional services agreement for the 2014-2015 school year. Number 8, resolution approving shared services agreement for the 2015-2016 school year. Number 9, resolution approving purchase orders for the provision of services by multiple service providers during summer months. And you have a white sheet, which is an addition. Item number 10, approval of special education settlement agreement. Do I have a second? Dr. Miliadis. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Devereaux. Yes to all.
Mrs. Khan,
Yes to all.
Dr. Dickinson,
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Soriatis,
Yes.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mr. Robbins,
Yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack.
Yes. Dr. Dickinson, will you present the committee meeting notes from BNF and the agenda, please?
Thank you, Mrs. Matlack. The BNF committee had a relatively short meeting. We discussed some issues in the business office. There are a lot of people retiring in the coming months, so there might be changes in the way processes are being dealt with. For no fault of Mr. Devereaux's at all. The retirements are just coming because people are just retiring.
They would have retired long before now if that was it.
No rhyme or reason for the retirements, just happenstance. Just happen to all be in one office. So expect some changes with new faces in the business office and how they process what they do. We discussed the CUSAC report. The BNF portion of the report was able to get all 10 points that were available for us in that area. So to Mr. Devereaux's benefit, we got everything that we could. And the CUSAC report, as we all know, is kind of a quality assurance thing that we have to do for the state. We discussed the use of school facilities. The township does use the district quite a bit during the academic year. The district does not charge a fee for those usage the times they use the facilities. In some instances, the township does charge a fee for participants in those programs. The district does not get a benefit from those fees. So we just wanted to get that out on the table so everybody understands the process. We discussed the audit, which is coming up. We will have a visit from the auditors in November. Audits need to be completed by December 7th. They will probably not be done by then because there is a new rule called the GASB 68, which requires the district to fund unfunded pensions, which is something new passed down from the state. In order for us to do that, the state has to provide us with figures, and we don't expect the state to have that done by December 7th, so that will slow the processing of our audit and submission to the state. And then finally, we talked about shared services with the township, specifically the police department. The only change was to extend the agreement for a 2-year term, whereas in the past it's always been a 1-year term. So that was the only change with the agreement. And I think that was it. Any questions? Mr. Roth?
All right, I just want to clarify something on that, GASB. We're required to record the liability for the unfunded pension. We don't have to fund it.
Oh, did I say that? Okay.
Yes. I know I put a scale out there. Just record the liability.
Thank you for clarifying that. Other questions? No? Shall I move the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. Number 1, financial reports. Number 2, resolutions. Number 3, resolution for the award of transportation. Number 4, tuition agreements with ETTC, Camden County Technical Schools, Gloucester Township Campus. And number 5, acceptance of donations. Do I have a second? Mrs. Khan. Any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Devereaux.
Dr. Dickinson?
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mrs. Soriatis?
Yes.
Mrs. Judge?
I need to abstain on the second bill list, the Cooper University Hospital. Yes to the rest.
Mr. Robbins?
Abstain with respect to New Jersey American on the bill list, yes to the remainder.
Mr. Roth?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel?
Yes.
Mrs. Khan?
Yes.
Mrs. Matlack?
Yes. Mrs. Judge, will you present the HR report and move the agenda, please?
Yes. We had our Human Resources meeting on Friday, September 25th for October, the majority of which of what we discuss is confidential, but I can mention a couple things. We discussed the 2 job descriptions that we are voting on this evening, the one being the supervising teacher for the Family Friendly Center, which is an hourly position and will be paid through grant funding Title II, in the payroll coordinator position. We also discussed the interim assistant superintendent position. James Gallagher is the recommended candidate for the interim position. And tonight we are voting to authorize the submission to his contract to the executive county superintendent for review. We anticipate that the executive county superintendent will approve the contract within 2 weeks. And once she has approved this, a second resolution will be placed on the agenda for the board to actually approve the contract. We are anticipating this will take place at the November 10th special action meeting for us to approve. And we plan to post for a permanent position after the first of the year with a goal of a July 1st start. And then we also looked at what we had at the time for the agenda this evening, which is the normal unfortunate resignations or retirements, reassignments, along with the other compensation for after-school detention, the Saturday school, before and after-school supervision, etc., on the agenda this evening. Any questions? Seeing none, I will move the agenda. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. Number 1, termination of employment certificated. Number 2, termination of employment non-certificated. Number 3, appointments certificated. Number 4, appointments non-certificated. Number 5, leaves of absence certificated. Number 6, leaves of absence non-certificated. Number 7, assignment salary change certificated. Number 8, assignment salary change non-certificated. Number 9, other compensation certificated. Number 10, other compensation non-certificated. Number 11, approval of job description. Number 12, approval of a revised job description. And number 13, other motions. Do I have a second? Dr. Horiadis. Any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Devereaux.
Mrs. Judge?
Yes to all.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Khan?
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson?
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mrs. Soriatis?
Yes.
Mrs. Matlack?
Yes. Before we move on to P&L, Dr. Malash has a few words.
Thank you, Mrs. Matlock. So in the HR portion, we just approved Dr. Karen Russo as the new assistant principal at Beck Middle School. Dr. Russo and I believe her husband are here this evening. So Dr. Russo, if you would just come up to the microphone, I can do a little introduction for you. Dr. Russo, we're thrilled that she's going to begin as permanently in the position of assistant principal at Beck Middle School. She's actually been filling in since the opening of the academic year, on a temporary assignment as the acting assistant principal at Beck. Karen's been in our district. She came to us as a teacher from Delaware. She had taught in Southern Delaware. She graduated from Wesley from college, although she is from South Jersey. So she returned to South Jersey, and she taught at Kilmer. While she was teaching at Kilmer, she also earned her doctorate in educational technology from Wilmington University. At one point, Karen in her classroom at Kilmer had a model technology classroom where her students were using all kinds of technology all the time. Karen's an incredibly talented educator, and we're thrilled that she was able to come up, through the ranks here within the district. Having the knowledge of the district and understanding of the curriculum and the expectations was key for the folks at Beck as they went through the interview process. During the course of the last year, Karen had assumed the teacher coordinator position, which meant that truly she took over all the testing for the district, which, as you're all aware, was quite a busy year during 2014, 2015. Karen worked an incredible number of hours, was always personable, was always compassionate, did an incredible job with the staff with whom she worked, was our liaison with the state. So we're thrilled that Karen is going to be an administrator in the district at Beck Middle School.
Let me speak. I'm honored to be the new assistant principal at Beck Middle School. Although it will be relatively Marburg, I met a lot of people in the business office, human resources, great staff. However, I'm really looking forward to working closely with the children, the staff, the administrators, and the board at Beck Middle School. And I just wanted to share something. So I was in the humanities class last week, and they had to select a current events article, and one of the children did select about how it was the crossing guards. So I really need to be in that aspect and see that they admire that the community that they're in as well. So I just want to share a piece of Beck and our students already. So thank you so much.
Good luck.
Dr. Russo, congratulations from the board, and thank you for your service to the district, and we look forward to working with you in this new capacity. And now we'll move on to the panel portion, and we have Mr. Goodwin with that.
Thank you, Mrs. Matlack. We met. We didn't have a whole lot of items to cover, but we did talk about the bylaws. And we had feedback on the bylaws, and Dr. Malash took all the feedback and packaged it, sent it off to Strauss Esme, and they're going to take all that and incorporate all the feedback that was put in there, and then we'll take another go at it. I think it's going to be back on November 2nd for the next P&L committee meeting, so we can go review it, make sure it looks good, and then we'll put it out to the rest of the board, hopefully for the first reading for November 10th. We also did go through our QSAC, and I think we got all of our points for QSAC, so we went through that, and the other item that we covered was the Uniform State Memorandum of Agreement Resolution. And basically it's an agreement that's signed by the district, it's signed by the chief I believe the chief of police, as well as the township. And this is an agreement in terms of how things will process from a law enforcement kind of method in terms of what goes an agreement what goes where. So that's something that must be signed, and it's just something that we're actually going to be voting on that today, and I guess Carol will be signing it soon. Those were the major items we covered. We didn't have much public comment. It was so other than that, I think those were the big items. Are there any questions? If not,
Mr. Goodwin, before we move the approval agenda, I believe Mrs. Judge has an update that she would like to
I
give.
was going to do that at the end. I'm sorry.
okay.
That's okay.
I'm here.
Well, it's like tonight we're doing 2 readings in one.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a report on our meeting with Senator Beach on October 1st. At the meeting was Jonathan Pushman from New Jersey School Boards, Joyce Miller from, she's the board president at Gibbsboro, and David, I'm not going to pronounce his name right, but it's Rout Zan, I believe, from Collingswood, and myself. Jonathan Pushman from School Board started the meeting, and he discussed the prevailing wage bill. I have a copy of it right here. It's sponsored by James Beach and Senator Cruz Perez from, she's from District 5, Camden and Gloucester counties. This applies to local public contract bid thresholds and local pay to play and prevailing wage laws. And Jonathan suggested amending the bill to include public school districts in that. And his chief of staff, Ivy, was thrilled to hear that it was an amendment and not like a brand new bill or whatever. So we also discussed bullet points as quickly as we could. Pensions, unfunded mandates, Chapter 78, special ed costs, and that tuitions do not have a 2% cap like public schools have regarding increasing tax levy. Park. So we thought we had an hour to meet with the senator, and we learned very quickly that we only had a half an hour. And so on our way out, literally walking out, I was able to mention that Cherry Hill does not receive our fair share of funding. And Senator Beach's reply, and I mentioned this at Zone PTA meeting last week, was that Cherry Hill is not quiet regarding that issue. So I took that as a compliment walking out the door. So it was personally a little disappointing that we only had half an hour, and it literally was very quick. We spent a lot of time on Jonathan's issue with the prevailing wage bill, the S3138. We talked a bit about special ed and the tuition costs and how it's an unfunded mandate, et cetera. And some of us who were there didn't even really get a chance to speak, so I did my best in that half an hour. So that's my report. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Before I move the P&L agenda, I just wanted to point this out. The goals that are in the P&L agenda that was sent out are an older version, weren't the latest copy. So on the green sheet is the latest copy of the goals, and that's what I'll be moving for the agenda. Okay. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 1, approval of board goals for the 2015-2016 school year. 2, resolution for the NJ CUSAC Statement of Assurance. 3, resolution for the Uniform Memorandum of Agreement. And 4, approval of harassment, intimidation, bullying, and investigation decisions. Do I have a second? Mrs. Judge, any questions on the agenda items? If not, Mr. Devereaux.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Oriadis,
Yes.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mr. Robbins,
Yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel,
Yes.
Mrs. Khan,
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson,
Yes, to all.
Mrs. Matlack.
Yes. Mr. Roth, will you speak to strategic planning, please?
Sure. strategic planning.
Talk to us about that.
Thank you, Mrs. Matlack. We have another issue to address in strategic plan, excuse me, was the shared services agreement related to the turf fields with the township. As you recall, at our action meeting in September, we passed the shared services agreement with a couple of suggested changes, and our passage of that was contingent upon those changes being accepted by the township. We talked about that at the meeting. As it turned out, the township did accept all of the changes that we proposed. And last Tuesday, the township, for their part, accepted the shared services agreement. So right now, we're pretty much go on that. Now, of course, one of the appendices to the shared service agreement is the usage agreement, which was not voted on. That hasn't been completed. That's being drafted. That'll be continued to be worked on for the next few months. But it has been, the shared services agreement has been passed by both the township and us. Last week, there was also a meeting of the group of township officials and a group of Board of Education officials that have been meeting periodically related to the turf project. Basically, it was a status update. We talked about the fact that the township had just passed and we'd agreed to the shared services agreement. And the engineers did most of the talking, pretty much telling us what they had to do in order to prepare the specs in order to go out for bid. I talked a little bit about timing, and the engineers were encouraged to get their work done as promptly, as quickly as they could, so that we could put together a package, and sooner rather than later, put the package out and start soliciting bids. So that process is well underway. The engineers are working on it, and we're really hopeful that by the end of, certainly by the end of the year, next couple of months, they'll be ready to go out and put that out for bid. One little change to what we've talked about before. As you recall, of course, we talked about phase one, and phase one is the installation of the turf at east and west, and also the resurfacing of the track at east and west. The engineers suggested, and it was agreed to by all parties, that we would have to run some water lines and some electric lines underneath the track into the football field for water, so they can have things to drink, and electric, so we can have PA announcements and things like that, and run some electrical fans and things like that on the field. So that was a little addition to phase one, but everybody agreed to that, and it had to be done. So, any questions or comments on that? Tim?
So where a go? What does that exactly mean? So I can report it back to our students. Where a go?
That means that the approvals have been made by the board and the township to go ahead with preparing the engineering specifications to put out to solicit bids. The next process would be for soliciting bids to interested contractors who want to bid on the contract. And there's a process in which they solicit the bids, they answer questions, there's a deadline in which the bids have to be submitted. And then at that point, the bids will be reviewed, and a contractor will hopefully be chosen. One proviso, of course, is that the bids come in near what we anticipate the cost to be. If the lowest bid comes in much, much higher than the numbers that we've been talking about, both the township and the board have the right to reject those bids. And at that point, we'll address whatever has to be addressed. But right now, we're going forward in putting together the engineering specifications, and we'll be submitting the bids, I would say, in the next couple of months. Other questions, comments? Mrs. Matlock?
Thank you, Mr. Roth. At this time, we will have our second public discussion. When you come to the microphone, you may speak to any issue that you wish. Please state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes for your remarks. Mrs. Wilson, I believe you had sign-up sheets. Did you? Okay, very good. Mr. Swarovski?
Excuse me?
Can you, Mr. Swarovski, come to the microphone, please, so we can hear you?
Did Mr. Roth go through his report to the action committee? Or was that not necessary?
There was no action taken on his
Thank
report.
you.
It was just the report.
Make sure I wasn't stepping on anybody's toes.
Not at all.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board and members of the public who are out there listening to the streaming. We are being streamed tonight. Okay, thank you. And last night, approximately 24 hours ago, I was sitting in my family room anxiously awaiting for the start of the Eagles game and everything else that went along with it. And I received a video of the mayor speaking at Sharp Elementary School. And I promised my wife I would be nice tonight, and I would, curb my anger, and everything else with Mayor Khan and the different things that Mayor Khan said, at that time. I would like to go on record as saying, and hopefully Mrs. Matlack will agree with me, that Mrs. Matlack did not reach out to me 9 times, and I refused to respond to her. That never took place, and that's what the mayor did report. And Dr. Malash did not reach out to me 5 times, and I refused to respond to him, which is what the mayor reported. And I'm sincerely hoping that that will go on the record as saying that never occurred, and whether or not it was political pandering or not, I really don't know. What motivated the mayor to respond to the question in that manner. I had the one satisfaction in knowing that I had had active communication with Mrs. Matlack during the day yesterday, and we had come to an agreement to meet again, and we had come to an agreement, on dates, and we finalized the dates early this morning, as to when we will be meeting, and that sort of curbed my angst, and as far as things go, because I knew in my heart that I don't ignore people, and I don't go and refuse to talk to people, which is what the mayor implied. And I'm sorry that occurred, and I apologize to my members, if they received that particular type of message, but it did not occur that way, and hopefully Mrs. Matlack will attest to the fact that it did not occur that way. I am very happy, with the fact that we are meeting again. I put that out to our members, in an email last night, and it went out to over 1,000 members that we are meeting, again, that we are going to go and reopen and establish communication patterns. So I'm pleased, and I hopefully that the board is pleased, and I want to thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Swarovski, we are on something. That's a step in the right direction. You are correct. It was not 9 times, but both sides have reached out to each other, and that's why I felt it necessary to explore that in my statement tonight. But we have a step in the right direction, so that's a good thing. Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Hi, my name is Jill Gutman, and I'm much shorter than everybody else. I reside at 402 Echo Court in Cherry Hill, and I recently moved to this town last December. My child started kindergarten, well, one of my children started kindergarten over at Woodcrest. So far, it's a great experience. And I came tonight to show my support for the teachers. When I learned recently that there was no contract for the last 2 years, I have to say I was shocked. I specifically picked this town to move to because of the education system. And I'm floored because there's a national spotlight on this town being listed in articles and magazines throughout the entire country. People have heard of this town wherever you go. I've lived up and down the East Coast. Everybody knows of Cherry Hill. And to not have a contract, I think makes our town look very negative. I think it puts a negative light on it. I think it is a shame. These teachers could go out and strike. They could leave and strike, and then what are we gonna do? So I would just encourage both sides, particularly the board, to really come up with a contract that works for everybody. And again, I'm just shocked. And I'd like to see a time frame set for when this contract is going to be achieved. 2 years is absolutely ludicrous, really, in my mind. I just, again, cannot understand it. I'd also like a full-day kindergarten to be looked into, and most towns have full-day kindergarten throughout this country. Many towns have it, especially towns like Cherry Hill. This is a district, again, one of the best districts in the state, in the country. We have a half-day kindergarten. We have tons of working parents. There is a wait list every year for EDCC. When I found that out, I moved to this town and sent my money, and I was probably one of the first people in because I was scared. What am I going to do as a working parent with my child if I don't get into that program? I can't afford to send my kid to a private school for kindergarten, and that's what a lot of parents have to end up doing, and that's a real shame. And I moved from a town that had a full-day kindergarten, but again, I moved because I wanted this district, and that really needs to be considered. And the last thing I'd like to be considered is the quality of the elementary school food. A few days a month, there's a decent menu, but I was shocked again by how unhealthy the selection is. Pizza, fries, meatball Parmesan sandwiches, fried food, fried this, fried that. This is not what we should be serving our elementary school children, especially with the obesity epidemic in this country. So I'd like that to be looked into. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Gutman. To clarify, and you, Mr. Sharofsky, can address this as well, the teachers cannot strike. So I just wanted to clarify that. And there's a time frame. We're going through the negotiation process, and right now we are in the fact-finding portion of that process. And we have an update on our website with questions and answers that describe the process that you might find helpful. We will look into your other concerns and get back to you. If you will provide Mrs. Wilson with your email address, please. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to approach the microphone?
Hello. My name is Robert Weaver, 625 Croydon Drive, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. By now, many of you know who I am. I'm that guy who started that darn social media page that brought already frustrated parents and community members together to discuss this embarrassing season in Cherry Hill education. But there's a little more to me than that. To know me is to know I greatly admire my father. I was born and raised for some of my childhood in Glassboro, New Jersey, until my father just could not stand it anymore. He saw his kids in a detrimental and even dangerous education system, and he took action. He started by tuitioning my older brother and sister to Cherry Hill East because he valued the education above all and knew that Cherry Hill would offer us exceptional education. And as if this wasn't already a huge financial sacrifice, the following year he moved our entire family into Cherry Hill. He could not afford this. My father sacrificed a great deal to make this happen, to move us here. And believe me, I see his sacrifice in his face to this day. But he got us through this education, and because of that, he saw his fourth kid graduate from college last year, and he also saw me receive my commission as an officer in the United States Army Reserve, for which I am serving in my 6th year as an executive officer. On top of his unbelievable sacrifice for his family and for us kids, he continues to sacrifice for his students or his other kids. Anyone who knows my father, and unfortunately it's become clear here that from your actions that you don't know him, because anyone who knows him knows the last thing he wants to do is take anything away from the kids. You have no idea the countless hours he puts into leading and supporting a program at East with at least 500 students, if not more, involved. And yet, you decided to pass the blame on the teachers for mistakes that have happened here. And specifically, Mrs. Matlack targeted my father when claiming that you left him no other choice when he had to cancel various dances and trips. Luckily, he is surrounded by students who love him and know those lies. Amazingly, I'm not here for him, but I stand here for three groups, my three young kids who will feel, the brunt of this selfishness. The teachers who care so greatly for my kids and were here and are the reason for my service in the United States Army and for the success of my siblings, and for the hundreds of other parents who continue to make sacrifices like my father, but are proud to do it because they know this education is worth it, and they know these teachers deserve the respect and pay you need to extend them. So please find an end to these negotiations. It's embarrassing to the Cherry Hill education, and we need to move on. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who has a comment for us?
Good evening. My name is Albert Powell. I am not a resident of Cherry Hill, but I am an employee. And while I was sitting here earlier watching my fellow colleagues being honored for the time that they put in, it occurred to me there were a lot of names not mentioned, and I was wondering what the system was that you came up with to honor these people, whether they may have been the only ones responded to the email that went out or what, because I know there's many more employees, especially in my end of the district through buildings and grounds, that have that many years and more, and their names weren't mentioned. So can somebody tell me what the system was for coming up with these names?
These were names provided from Human Resources of people who were marking that specific amount of time of employment. So while there may have been people who have served for, say, 27 years, we were marking 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40 years. Those numbers did come from the Human Resources Department. They keep records of
Okay, so
those
they
years.
were specifically the years you mentioned and not somebody in between.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Mrs. Seidel, and a second. Mr. Robbins. Thank you very much, everyone.